We are discussing drunk on wheels. The last few days you've seen a report done by Gatete Njoroge and Evelyn Wambui showcasing the menace on the roads because of the road carnage caused by drunk drivers behind the wheels. So what exactly is causing this menace and how can we sound the alarm for people to be more responsible, people to take it more seriously? In studio to try and seek a solutions-oriented way forward, we have the Director of Road Safety with the National Transport and Safety Authority, John Muya. And we have Wangeshi Waweru, she's a Kenyan songwriter and rapper who survived a Grizzly Road accident back in 2014. So thank you both for being here. And of course, the police spokesman, Charles Owino, will be joining us a little later on in this discussion as well. So he'll be coming later. Before we delve into the discussion, let's show you some of the footage that we've been running over the last few days, just to give you a glimpse into what we're talking about. I don't know whether that's on the screens already. This is again highlights of Drunk on Wheels, the TV series you were showing. And that's the footage of
I've driven the lab from 85 to today, and I've never found myself in this state. And I've never caused a single accident. I've never been involved in a single accident. I'm wondering what I'm doing here right now.
Okay, that's again highlights of the feature series that was airing over the last few days. Rogue drivers, you can see they're trying to escape the authorities, and maybe this is where we can bring in John Muya, from the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA. There's a feeling that these incidents, and we just talked about this, are at an all-time high, and that it's almost reached an issue of sort of like national crisis. Can you tell us a little bit about where we stand right now with drunk driving on the roads?
Thank you, Janet. I think the position is that, yes, it's quite high in terms of behavior of Kenyans and compliance with the law, basically, on the roads. And specifically when we talk of drunk driving, we started these operations way back, I think 2 years now. And yes, there are quite a number of improvements, because what we are looking at is the levels.
Yeah.
When we started, most of the people were above the limit. Today, yes, there's a lot of reporting, so it seems to be quite high.
Yeah.
But in each operation now we are doing, we see quite a number of people who are below the limit. All
right, and this is Nairobi or across the country?
Across the country.
We have a lot of the numbers in Nairobi, and I think a little later on we'll run those graphics. But what other parts of the country do we see it at such an alarming rate?
We have cities like Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Nakuru.
Yeah.
Basically the big cities, because again of the economic, the people are able to drink. And I think basically what we are saying is that as long as people are not responsible in terms of what they do, and also knowing that there's a law and it must be followed, then we have an issue.
But they're not following the law. And how do you think we can change that? Because I think people continue to do it because they feel like they can't get away with it.
I think by and by we are getting there. One of the key issues is the fines. The fines are quite hefty, especially in Nairobi, and we are consulting with the judiciary so that across the country is the punishment is the same.
Okay. So we're going to come a little later to what really needs to be done, so that it's not just talk and saying we're going to talk to the judiciary, we're going to try and implement ETC, but how can we actualize it? We'll come to that in just a moment. Wangeshi, first of all, you were involved in a Grizzly Road accident back in 2014. Before we even continue with the interview, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm very great. I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
and living life every day at a time.
All right.
Yeah.
Take us back to that night and tell us what happened.
Well, that night is actually very brief because we were at a party with my friends, and all I remember was leaving the actual club, and next thing I know, I was in hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the time between that and hospital, you just don't remember?
Yeah.
Was there alcohol involved?
Yes, I was drinking.
You were drinking?
Yeah, I was drinking.
Is that a part of you that sort of like looks back and thinks, I wish I had a clearer mind, a sober mind, things would be different?
Every part of me.
Really?
Yeah. It's not something you want to live with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet you survived it. Your friend didn't, Tiona.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Were you driving?
No, I wasn't driving.
You weren't driving?
I wasn't driving. I was a part of the passengers.
Okay.
In the back, yeah.
A lot of what we're seeing, it's not just with older people. We're looking at a lot of young people who are sort of like the victims or even the perpetrators, so to speak, of drunk driving.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is the case? Take us into the mind of a young Kenyan today who gets into the car from the club completely drunk and wants to go home. Why do you think this is happening?
I think it's more of a YOLO mentality, you know, the you only live once mentality that's in youth.
Yeah.
And the whole, I'm sure the car isn't yours because you don't have the money to buy the car. So it's not your property, and you have the whole you only live once lifestyle inside you. So it's do it now. Drunk drive, you know you can do it, and you don't know the repercussions yet because you've not yet experienced it. That's what I think goes on in your head.
Do you know of other incidents?
Yeah.
Many.
By last month, I knew of 2 people my age who died from drunk driving incidences.
Yeah.
And around 1 last year.
And that's early 20s?
That's early 20s.
So what do you think, and I know this is something we're going to try and talk about in detail a little later on, but how can we almost shock young people or scare them into not, being a part of this lifestyle, the YOLO lifestyle and being drunk on the roads? As a young person, what would it take to convince you that this just isn't worth it?
Well, I can put it in my case that most of the people I hang out with right now are not part of that lifestyle anymore because I am their example.
Okay.
So to somebody else who doesn't have the same type of example as I am, I think the most thing we can do is education awareness. Drive it into them, show them how the YOLO lifestyle isn't really a lifestyle that's going to help you out in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are many repercussions to face.
Yeah. And you think that's something that could help? Do things like the fines and all of the laws, do they even scare young people, or do they just feel like that's just talked about, I wouldn't be...
Because you won't pay for the fine. It's going to be your parents paying for the fine.
Yeah.
Like I saw in that interview for Evelyn Wambui, some guy ran it through the thing.
The guy, the Matatu driver who got out of the car that was, the
BMW which passed over.
Oh yes, the BMW, yes, that's that.
Probably that's not their car.
Yeah.
So it's not their repercussion to face.
Yeah.
So the fine doesn't really impact them that much.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll come back and ask you a few questions just now, but just listening to what she's saying, again, that sense that the fines wouldn't get to me. Some people saying I'm above the law, all I have to do is bribe my way around. I mean, how are you going to change that thinking? Because it's about the mindset. Right. What are you doing as NTSA to try and change that around?
I think the punishments for the young people, you can only do it once or twice, and hoping that then you don't get into the accidents. But I can assure you the many youth we have interacted with on the roads, and the punishment they get for that night, because they normally very scared, calling their mothers and everybody else, and many a times, of course, you can't get out of it. You have to be in the cells.
Exactly.
And it's not a very good experience.
Okay, Wangeshi has just mentioned something important. She's talked about sort of like educating young people, telling them the dangers. Is that something that you're doing as an organization, trying to talk to young people about it? Civic education?
Yes, we have programs that we are already, we will start very soon in terms of sensitization of the youth. And we've been doing for the drivers, the PSV drivers, for example. And the punishment for the PSV drivers is so hefty that if you are found, we just remove the Class A for driving PSV vehicles. And of late, they are very scared. That's why you see somebody behaving the way they have. We will soon be starting those sensitization also for the youth. But again, you need then to get it to the schools. You need to teach them from actually the syllabus in terms of road safety and other issues, which we are also in discussion with the Ministry of Education, so that we can introduce it at that young.
You've talked about the PSV drivers being very afraid. I'll ask you this question, but it might be better directed to the police spokesman. We still see a lot of people get away with it. I know I'm emphasizing that a lot because the more that happens, the more likely we'll see these trends. So, for instance, those who were showcased in the series that we saw were sort of in and out of court the next day. So, you know, how can we begin to just impose really hefty fines, impose the law in a way that people get afraid, the way they are during DUIs, for instance, in the States?
I think for PSV drivers, they are not just afraid of the courts, because by the way, the PSV drivers are not supposed to even have a sip of any alcohol, as opposed to the private citizen. And what we have seen is that immediately they are taken to court and we remove them from the roads in terms of the license. It's affecting them really much because they have families. And I think that is now coming to their senses, that it will affect their families, and they are saying as much. So, and whenever we have had sensitization within, you know, they are organized in circles and companies, we have seen changes in the circles we have discussed with in terms of the behavior.
Right. Wangeshi, I know later you'll talk a little bit about the kind of projects you're getting into to raise awareness. Right now, though, how much did this accident change you in terms of you being someone who likes to go out, someone who likes to socialize? Did it completely take that away from you?
Yeah, it completely turned the whole table. Like, now I sort of find it hard to socialize with people if I don't know you, and I've changed my whole going out mentality and everything. I'd rather like sit home and read a book or anything else, because you don't see the benefit of it anymore after that, after going through such a big thing.
Okay. John, earlier on I'd asked you about, you know, the comparison between countries like the United Kingdom, the United States, and how they're able to you know, criminalize these acts and really impose heavy fines or really execute the law, and why that hasn't been translated in Kenya. Are you able to just tell us very briefly what that is going to take? Because I believe that will really, like one of the SMSs say, taking away driver's license from these people for like a year or two, hours and hundreds of hours of community service. When can we get there? When will we get there?
Well, Janet, again, I say that we've come from far. Our systems were basically manual. NTSA is working on what we are calling Transport Integrated Management System. We are also working on the smart driving license, and that's where now we will be talking about having hefty punishment. We will have the point system, which is in the States, but that also have to happen with data, which we are working with, and I think by the end of the year we should be...
By the end of the year?
Yes, we should be.
Speaking of data, I think we can pull up some numbers right now. Let's just take a look at those. We have year-on-year comparison of fatalities. Take a look at those numbers and you can see the comparison between 2014 and 2015 for drivers, pedestrians, passengers, pedal cycles, and they've obviously shot up massively over the last 1 year. That's between 2014 and 2015. Let's see if we can move on to one or two more slides. Days of the week. So in 2015, Mondays combined for the year 2015, we saw 349 deaths. This is really looking at road carnage, you know, not necessarily on drunk driving, but just a snapshot of road carnage in Kenya. Tuesday, again, 349, Wednesday, 361, and if you can see Friday, let's see if we can have Saturday and Sunday as well, and you'll see that the numbers shoot up. There we go. Saturday, 603. Obviously, this is the time when a lot of people are out on the roads, out and about in the clubs and parties, and we can see the reflection there in the road fatalities. And finally, let's see if we can take a look at one more slide, and we can take a look at Nairobi, Nakuru, Mombasa, and Machakos. And Nairobi, again, holds the record, a very sad record, for 668. So that's a look at the graphical representation and the trend of road fatalities, 2010, 2011, all the way to 2015. And you can see that the numbers, the fatalities, sort of remain the same, but we are seeing them go up and down, a bit of a yo-yo pattern there. We'll wait and see what 2016 will reveal. So again, pretty disturbing numbers there. And, you know, we need to kind of discuss a way forward. And I don't know whether you can answer this again, John. Alcoblo, is it achieving what authorities had hoped it would? Is it making the situation better or worse? What are your thoughts on Alcoblo?
Alcoblo is working.
Okay.
And I can tell you, if we were not on Langata Road, you would see what we used to have.
Yeah.
Very many deaths from young people, vehicles were on top of roundabouts and all that. It's no longer there, but we're still pushing. If you look at the numbers, and by the way, we register 100,000 vehicles per year. So if you look at the number of the vehicles and the populations as well, we are trying. And by the time we are having systems in place, I know we will do much better.
Okay.
Nairobi alone has, out of the deaths, the fatalities, 70% are pedestrians.
Yeah. And
pedestrians are basically either drunk walking or they are hit by drunk drivers because they either don't see and they have no balance.
So a majority of the deaths on the roads, whether it's pedestrians or drivers, is caused by drunk driving. Is that what you're saying?
Majority of them.
Okay.
Up to 60%.
And that's where the concern is.
Yes.
That's really where the concern is, I think. Wangeshi, you've been able to live through it, and so now you want to use your voice to spread awareness. Tell us a little bit more about the projects you're involved in and what you hope to achieve as we kind of view one of your videos and one of your projects as well.
Yeah, actually the video about to view was a video shot immediately after hospital and after recovery process. So it was mostly me telling my story of what I went through and all the pain that I went through and how most people should avoid going through the same path of it. I should be the example.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the video on?
Yeah, we need to have hair.
Right, okay. Yeah. There we have it. So kind of you want to be a voice, a brand ambassador of sorts.
Yes.
The two of you should probably connect.
We should.
NTSA, Wangeshi. This is what the show is about, making those connections.
Yeah.
Do you think you will achieve it, or do you think it's going to take so much more for young people to sit back and realize, you know what, this could be me. This could be me, yeah.
Well, I think entrenched behaviors in people need long and sustainable, effective measures for it to be eradicated. So it's going to take a longer period of time. But it's not that, because it's going to take a longer period of time, I shouldn't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's something that I am thinking about and I am willing to put in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't ask this earlier, but what, on a personal level, how did the accident change in terms of your functionality? Are there some things you're not able to do now that you could do before the accident?
Yeah, I used to be able to play piano. I can't play piano because of my left hand coordination, guitar, drums. Mostly just my musical instruments, which is really sad.
That's frustrating,
That's very frustrating. Yeah. And like holding the mic is hard. So it's really affected my musical career.
Yeah.
But I try to make people not notice it by doing other things.
Right. Would physiotherapy help that, or is that something that's going to be permanent?
I did my physio.
Yeah.
But I sort of ended up quitting before the full thing was, because I was tired of the whole sick mentality. I wanted to just go out and start doing things.
Okay.
But yeah, it's coming back.
All right.
It's coming back.
Do you still drink?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
All right. And what got you through? What got you through that difficult period? You were in hospital. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it ICU or HDU?
It was all.
It was all.
Yeah.
What is it that you think got you through it so that you're able to sit here today with us?
Well, I think it's just God. It's God. I think God had a reason why I didn't die in that car.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason is to create the awareness around the whole drunk driving or drunk on wheels, as you guys have painted it as. So it's God, and also my mother was a big factor into my healing. Yeah. Yeah, she used to be always there every morning. Yeah. Yeah.
And today when you hear that the same thing happened, you mentioned two other people. What goes through your mind?
It's like, aren't guys listening? Yeah. Am I not a big enough example for you not to get behind the wheel? Drunk driving. It's I don't know, it's tormenting, because you feel like you're not doing anything to help anybody else, and people are still doing the same thing. And it's young guys, it's people my age. That means it's like the working force of the future is going. Our economy is going to pilot down, as in,
Okay, and obviously the problem, I think, and maybe John, you can start this, the problem again starts with alcohol abuse.
Yes.
You know, so we're seeing alcohol abuse, road carnage in the two meeting is just, again, I think maybe the education needs to start with abusing alcohol.
Yeah.
And why don't people take cab services. I think that's also something else that maybe we need to promote,
Exactly.
right? Just if you can't manage to make it home, get into a cab.
I think
Or
probably.
better still, agree among yourselves who drinks this weekend and who doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't want to encourage the youth to drink.
But you're being realistic.
You're being
if you
realistic,
have
yeah.
to go, then you can arrange and say, this weekend you don't drink, you take soda, then you are our driver.
Yeah, I know.
If you have to use your car. Otherwise, as Janet is saying, there are cabs, there are smart fellas, and there are all these people who are ready to come in.
Yeah, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I know a friend who leaves the car somewhere else and goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere safe.
Just to be responsible.
Yeah, just to be responsible.
All right. I don't know whether we have any tweets or whether we're going to take a short break and come back with that feedback. Okay, we're going to take a break and come back with Hussein. I think before we do that, your parting words. I know you've mentioned a lot. You've spoken very passionately, Wangeshi, and thank you for sharing your story. Something you'd like to tell someone today who's watching and saying, "It's this weekend, I'm still going to party, still going to drive home drunk." What would you want to tell that person?
I'd tell them, I used to be the type of person who believes these are the things that happen to the people on TV. It won't happen to me. But it actually did happen, so it can happen to anybody. There's nobody who's immune from it happening. And you should take protective measures, like, first of all, just don't drink and drive. Don't get behind the wheel. Second, put on your safety belt. And third, an insurance cover. Yeah.
Okay.
It eases up the pain of it after.
Okay.
It's the after measure, yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you for that. And John, your parting shot.
I think what I would urge Kenyans is they must stop driving if you're drunk. And it must be very clear from the National Transport and Safety Authority. We are not relenting. We will be very firm, and as I said, even Nairobi, we discussed with judiciary, and that's why the fines went that hefty. We are doing it, it will work, and we will not stop. We will not get tired, and we will change days. Monday is not necessarily Wednesday or Thursday. We'll be out there, and soon we have established quite links with other agencies. And
so you can work together.
Yes.
There's a question people have been asking. If they suspect that maybe they've entered a PSV and the driver is intoxicated, is there somewhere they can report this to? Is there an agency they can reach out to and say there's an issue with this PSV?
We actually have a hotline, which is in our website, and we normally get those messages, and we stop those vehicles immediately. Because we have very good connections with the circles and companies, and whenever we have the complaint, that vehicle would not go 15 minutes before it stopped.
We'll get those contacts and try and run them later. That's PSVs. What about privately owned vehicles?
Now, private vehicles are quite a challenge to us, and this will work when we have the system we are talking about. And you said the end of the year? Yes, by the end of the year we should be having it up and running. All right. And we'll ensure that those drivers who are, by the way, the last year, the deaths, the highest percentage of deaths were caused by private vehicles, and we do suspect it's drunk driving and speeding, because the moment they are drunk, they just speed. So we are working on quite a number of initiatives to ensure that that must be stopped. Okay, we'll hold you to it. But thank you both. Thank you again, Wangeshi, for sharing your story. All the best ahead with your projects. Please share them with us so that we can spread the word. I will. All right, and of course, John Muya from NTSA, thank you for your time.